Kyousuke is a kid that you've probably heard a ton about recently because he is one of the biggest prospects for Tier 1 Counter-Strike, and obviously because he has so much hype around his name, Falcons have to do what they do best and buy him out. Now, we're going to be talking about Kyousuke and Falcons in this video, and whether or not I think that Kyousuke for Magisk is a good change, and if he will be able to save Falcons, because now they have signed NiKo, Magisk, and Kyousuke, so hopefully that should be enough, right? Well, let's talk about it in this demo review right after a quick word from today's sponsor.
Today's video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey. Now, if you're not familiar with SkinsMonkey, this is a trade site that allows you to take some of the old and crusty skins out of your inventory, and you can actually trade them in for something a little bit new, a little bit shinier than what you have right now. And it's really easy to do this, actually. All you need to do is log in through Steam, pick the skins that you don't want to use anymore, grab the ones that you do, and then click trade. All trades will pretty much happen immediately, and any balance that you don't use in your trade actually stays on the site for you to use for any future trades that you decide to do. And right now, if you use the link in the description, you can actually get a 35% deposit bonus, and that's good for up to $100. So let's say you deposit $100, you would actually get $135 on the site if you use my link. So make sure you check out SkinsMonkey, and let's hop right back into the video.
So we're going to be looking at this game that Kyousuke played versus Favbet, and one of the most recent tournaments that he played on Spirit Academy. And in this map, he actually sets his highest rating. I think it was a 2.65, which is obviously very impressive, and that's why so many people are hyping this kid up. He really is that good. I mean, look at the control that he has on his M4. Now, we're not going to be doing so much of the tactical side of this game because I don't want to learn from Spirit Academy. Instead, I want to take a look at how he's playing and see if that will be able to slot into Falcons, because obviously Kyousuke is a player who will probably be able to do any role, but my biggest fear is having him join a team like Falcons where he's not going to get to play the spots that he wants to, because in this map he's going to be dominating the yard position, as you can see here. And most of the time, he's going to be doing this while focusing on the pop dog side. Now, if you don't play a lot of train, which most of you guys probably don't, you have two yard riflers. You have the one that's going to be focusing on T-Con, which in this case is Robo, and then you have the one that's going to be focusing in towards ladder. And in this instance, that's Kyousuke. Now, the reason why this actually is good is because Kyousuke is the person focusing on pop dog, and Robo is the T-Con player. Now, if we look over towards Falcons, we can watch how the Falcons like to do their mid control here, where we see Kyousuke and NiKo going in. So just at face value alone, we can see that the roles would actually be fine because Kyousuke is responsible for pop dog just like Kyousuke would be. Now, obviously, some people are going to say that this role right here is interchangeable, and you are right. However, you will see a lot of preference, as in NiKo will be the person that'll most of the time go yard, even if the spawns aren't good. It just depends on if they have a set strat or not. But here's the problem that I have with this. So obviously, Magisk is also removed in this equation, and we need someone that will be an anchor, and not just on train. I mean in general. We need a T-side lurker and we need an anchor. You would say at face value that would mean that Testis would move, which means that we need an Ivy player. Obviously, Magisk is the opera, and in this round, he's just playing here because he has a player, whatever. So that means that, let's say we give the role that we want to Kyousuke, and so we have NiKo and Kyousuke that are going to be playing in towards yard. That means that Kyousuke will either have to go Ivy and take Testis' spot, or he will have to anchor and take Magisk's spot. Do you see the problem? The problem is that if you give the best role to Kyousuke, the role that he normally plays, you're going to shift a lot, and you're basically changing everything. So, would we like to make our 3-star players happy, that being NiKo, Magisk, and Kyousuke? Most likely. But in return, you're going to be shifting Kyousuke and Testis in almost every single position, and it's going to change the dynamic a lot. And I'm not saying that that's for the worse. Obviously, there could be, maybe a magic in the air. Maybe everything will just be perfect once everything switches. I don't know. But I am a little skeptical because you're not just changing one player. You're actually changing effectively 3. Plus, we don't even know if that's what they want to do. If they want to give Kyousuke some of the roles that NiKo has because he plays them in his current team, that means that also NiKo would change, and you're changing everybody's roles except for Magisk's. And that's only for the CT sides of Falcons. It gets a lot more confusing when you look at T side, but let's get back to this Kyousuke review because we are here to look at him. Now we have some yard control coming in, and I want to talk about a couple of rounds in a row that Spirit Academy do, and I think that this is really strong. So obviously we have the yard control, we have the sandwich smoke thrown by the T's, and to counter this we have the T-Con smoke thrown by the CTs, and then we have a nice molly, and and then Kyousuke will be getting flashed through. You see the flashes have popped in front, and the idea is that if anybody gets out here to try to lurk, which Kyousuke will do himself, these flashes will hopefully blind them if they turn around, and then you have somebody spamming the smoke. That way, if he's in this corner right here, he will be getting killed, and anybody that's trying to lurk on the edge will also be going down, and they're just taking control of this area. And you see that Kyousuke is doing this, even though I told you before he is normally going to be the pop dog player. This is a very much spawn based area of the map, but once the dust settles, he does come back and he focuses on pop dog. Now this is a small detail. They are rotating a second player towards B, so Kyousuke is going to Molotov back ladder, and it's not to deny them from coming out, it's actually just to get info and fake as if they could be re-aggressing. So if anybody's hiding in this little cubby here, they're going to be forced out. He'll hear that and he'll have the info, but since he doesn't hear anything, he knows it's not likely that anyone is close, so they can threaten like they're going to take deep T-con, which is exactly what he's going to do. He realizes that there's nobody there, so he's going to drop this smoke and just make it look like they could be in deep. Now, one of the tells that they're getting here is Merrick's is actually spamming this smoke, and it's very obvious to the Spirit Academy that there's nobody inside T-con because of that. So instead of going to take deep, they're just happy with that information because, I mean, to be fair, he's spamming like there's nobody there, and there is nobody there. So they're going to be happy to rotate off, and because Kyousuke didn't hear anything towards ladder, and he's pretty confident that T-con is clear, he's actually going to go for a Gambo rotate towards B. This is a very smart play. Again, based off the information, it's very unlikely that an A hit is coming in, so he doesn't feel too bad to rotate a third player to B. Now, this position that he's playing is really strong, and if you're ever pugging on train and you're a B player or a rotator, I highly recommend you try this spot. The idea is, let's go back here, if he were to get a kill, he can first of all, immediately drop off and reposition to fight upper, but if he gets blind, he does the same thing and he tucks to live. The fake is going to come in, it's going to pull Kyousuke into this spot. Again, he's very deliberately playing here. He likes this spot, it's a plan, and once he's pretty sure that they're not coming B and the A hit is actually coming in, he doesn't hesitate to throw himself in because he knows that it's one of the only ways that you can win the round is to come out here and fight. If you sit in towards Z, you won't win. And he's going to get a nice 3k here, and he's going to secure the round, and that's just overall a beautifully played round from Spirit Academy, but also from Kyousuke. Now, we actually see a very similar round in round 9 of this game. He's going to be coming in here. Again, the flashes are very deliberate. He's going to get flashed through by his teammate, and as you see, it's the exact same T-con control. However, the other team has adapted, so they're going to pop the smoke, and Kyousuke will go 1 for 1, but he's done a very good job to set his team up to win the round. Just imagine that this is NiKo, and you have a very similar looking round if this were Falcons. Now, even though this is a tier 2 team in terms of pro CS, they still have a lot of really cool things that you can do. So, based off what we just saw, remember, Kyousuke was denied with that nade. They're actually going to change the way they do yard control, and instead Kyousuke is going to flash Robo, who had the better spawn, to go through the sandwich smoke. And as you can see, he's going to come up here, that way he can see when the smoke pops and also get info. But then Kyousuke is going to throw this flash and he will go through the smoke. Again, this is a new way of clearing this. That's just a different look based off of the way that the team handled it last round where they popped the smoke. He wants to make sure that he gets to this spot where he has cover, and that way if they blow the smoke again, he can peek into them from behind Olaf. And I really enjoy this adaptation for Spirit Academy. Now let's just take a second here and look at what's happening. There's a smoke in towards Pop Dog, which looks really silly, but then you realize that while we were talking about this T-con control, the T's have actually thrown an exec for a fast A play where they're going to be splitting from Pop Dog. So we see Robo has been set up in the perfect position to deal with this. Now, he will go 1 for 1, but that's not really what I want to worry about. What I want to worry about is Kyousuke, because once he knows that this hit is coming in, you have 2 options. You either play passively on the back of bomb train, live, just try to get 1, buy time for your rotates to help, or you could pick the biggest gamble position and get in front of the bomb train, literally. That way you're using the E-box to its full potential. He's hiding behind it here, as you can see, and if anybody comes out of the smoke, he's directly holding for them. This spot is such a high risk. He could get blind at any point, but he knows that, and he's very confident. As you can see, his teammates are even breaking the smoke behind him to try to help him, and he's going to be in the perfect position. He hears them. They're not expecting him to be this close because it's such a risky play, and he's going to get all 3 kills. Actually, I changed my mind. He's going to get all 4 kills because once he knows that this person's out, he's just going to give him no time to play the clutch, and this is exactly what I want to see from somebody joining Falcons. These kinds of heads-up plays are going to be really nice to add to their playbook because obviously you have NiKo and Monacy that already are capable, but having a player whose entire playstyle is making these plays and he has the mechanics to back it up, and that's going to go a really long way. And I really like that you could see the thought process from Kyousuke here because again, we have another round of yard control coming in, and based off of what happened earlier, we're going to be flashed through the sandwich smoke again, and the idea is really simple. It's just because if you go the way that they were going earlier in the game, you're in the open if the smoke gets blown. But if you go this way, you can actually be an Olaf, so that way if the smoke is blown, you have a little bit of cover. Now, once this pick comes in and they have a man advantage, you can see the entire team's dynamic change because they go into a more passive setup. So what we see is we have a player rotating in towards B and he's just holding towards upper. Again, we know that in a 4v5, people are going to try to go for something if they can, and this player is actually going to walk out upper at the exact time that, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, walks into the site, and now they have a double man advantage. Now, in the meantime, Kyousuke wants to back up and play somewhere like Bomb Train, but instead of just running knife out where he could potentially get caught, he's going to be very deliberate in making sure there's no lurker in T-Con. He doesn't give any sound cues because if there is somebody sitting behind the smoke, he doesn't want to be running away so that person hears them and catches the timing. They want to give them absolutely no chance to win the round, and so even now, we're still walking. We're going to re-smoke T-Con. That's the only sound cue you're getting, and you're not coming through that smoke. And now you can back up and just accept the fact that you can't win the round. We have a double B setup. We have a really passive A setup here where Robo's holding the cross. And again, Kyousuke is just jiggling. He's not even worried about his right side because he knows that Robo would see that. And of course, we have our Opera in towards Ivy. There's really nothing that the T's can even do in this situation, but what you can do is enjoy this nice sequence from Kyousuke where he's going to get a beautiful 3-man spray down. And I mean, if you take that one CT performance and put that onto Falcons, I do think that it is an improvement, but it's the T side where I'm more worried about because again, this is the spot that NiKo plays on this map, but also in general, almost every T-sided map, Kyousuke plays the same role. Now, I'm not sold on roles are the most important thing in CS. I genuinely believe that any rifler can play pretty much any spot. It's not make or break, it's not do or die, but when you have somebody who's used to going in first all the time and you have somebody who also likes to go in first, it's going to change the dynamic of how the T-sides work. You know, maybe Kyousuke isn't going to be able to play ladder. Maybe he's going to have to switch and be the aggressive T-con player, and he's never done that before. There's a lot to worry about, but obviously I do think that he will be able to adapt. Mechanically, he's one of the strongest individual players we've seen coming out of Tier 2, and since Donk, quite frankly, and I do think that he will do fine, but it's just something to think about before we see their opening game in towards Cologne, I'm assuming. Here's another round here where he does go in towards T-Con. This is more of a set play. He's just going to confidently walk out, no utility thrown, and he sees this sandwich smoke, and it's going to fade, and he's just going to have to take these duels. Again, a very confident player. You see the way that the smokes have faded is actually really smart because he has the sandwich smoke fade first. That way he can walk up and creep up into this position here, and you see this player right here has no idea that he can even be here, and it's just a really good play. These are the kind of things that we don't see Falcons go for. They don't have a lot of heads up plays like this, and I think that that will be good. But again, it's not going to be NiKo doing this. It's going to be Kyousuke, and so where does that leave NiKo in the mix? I'm not sure. Maybe it doesn't matter, but overall, I do think that Kyousuke is a very strong player, and I look forward to seeing him on Falcons. And as one final talking point for the end of the video, let's just look at Falcons' T-side ancient because I do think that it is an important talking point. Here's a round where they're just going to be doing a mid default, and we have NiKo, who's going to be responsible for being the aggressive T rifler. This is the same role that Kyousuke plays. So who would take what spot? Well, Kyousuke takes the role of Magisk, right? Well, Magisk is throwing flashes, and I don't really think that this is something that I can imagine Kyousuke doing for NiKo. But does that mean that NiKo would throw flashes for Kyousuke? I don't think so either. So then what would actually happen? Would we have somebody else throw the flashes? Perhaps Kixin. Well, I think that that would be a good idea because at least on this specific map, you would have Kixin, or I should say Kyousuke, that could be on the other side here working maybe cave, maybe you have Tessa's doing this, and you have a very different but scary T-side dynamic, but I just don't want to see a one-for-one replacement. I don't want it to be Kyousuke relegated to utility thrower because he's the new guy on the team. Instead, I'd like to see the entire dynamic of Falcons change, and maybe Kyousuke would take this Kixin role because Kixin plays a lot of aggressive roles alongside NiKo on T-side as well as CT side, and maybe swap him around, give Kixin some of the more passive roles, some of the more, you know, unfun spots to play, and we just absolutely want to avoid seeing Kyousuke throwing flashes for NiKo because I think that that is probably the worst outcome of this move, but we'll just have to see what happens. And while I do like Kyousuke joining Falcons and I think it's a good move, I don't think that this is an earth-shattering, oh my god, Falcons is officially a super team unbeatable move, because quite frankly, if you were watching their demos beforehand, I don't even think that Magisk was necessarily the player to replace. I mean, because if we're being honest, he really did everything that he was supposed to do, and if we look at this unspecified round that the Falcons played at the major from Magisk's perspective, you can kind of see the entire story. But with that being said, I am still excited to see Kyousuke join the team because he has a lot of star power, and we'll just see if Falcons improve or if they still are going to be cursed at every event that they go to. But that was it for this demo review. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, like the video, and let me know who you want to see next. And much love as always for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.